A very good morning and happy on this Friday. And welcome everyone to Pet Fest Southeast Asia 2023, the International Pet Industry Hub in Southeast Asia. The second edition of Pet Fest Southeast Asia provide a strategic market entry and market expansion platform for Asia high growth market. The three-day fully B2B trade show unite Asia key distribution, retail and veterinary players, and the show will display a wide range of the product segments as a global sourcing hub for both brands and private label business on the show floor. So I'd like to introduce everyone about 2023 edition will furthermore feature a comprehensive conference programs, online matchmaking programs. Kindly allow me to introduce everyone about our program here at Pet Square, where you can gain the new knowledge, idea, and inspiration, and get insights from the leading experts and our speakers all around the globe who join with us here at Pet Square. Let me talk about the today program. The first session powered by the Asian Food and Feed Insect Association, or AFFIA, the topic of small but mighty, the benefits of insect in pet food. The afternoon session will happening at 1 p.m. The session by Cayman Industry will talk about the topics of oxidation control in pet food, journey to natural. At 2 p.m., session powered by Corbian, the topics of long-chain omega-3 DHA benefits for cats and dogs in the G state. And moreover, today we also have a great opportunity to invite everyone kindly be with us to give back to the society, because today will come with the last day of the show. We also have the special program, the charity donation, which is called Nourish with Love from Fair to Charity โครงการปันรักให้อิ่มท้องจาก Fair สู่ Charity ค่ะ This program that all exhibitors can donate your pet products to the society. The event will take place here at Pet Square from 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. If you love to give back to society, kindly join with us to be a part with us here at Pet Square. Moreover, we also arrange the several on-site activities to make you feel great and feel good every time here while you're visiting Pet Fest Southeast Asia 2023. You can participate our treasure hunts program, which is called Golf Stimulator, or enjoy with the massage for free for 30 minutes. And we also have the photo booth. You can capture your memorable time together here throughout the Pet Fest Southeast Asia. This is all about our special program just for you, everyone here. So we'd like to bring everyone to our first program of the day, where you can listen from the expert, and my great honor and privilege is to start the first session by the Asian Food and Feed Insect Association, AFFIA, organized under the topic of small but mighty, the benefits of insect in pet food. Our first session, we are honored to welcome the moderator joining with us on stage. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Ian Jones from Aki House.
I feel like I should slow-mo up the stairs. It's a very strange thing. I feel like I'm getting my own Dr. Phil show, but around how to be healthy with insects. So yes, on behalf of AFFIA, thank you for the introduction, June. It's a great pleasure to be here today, because there's some really significant changes that have been occurring in the last few years in the insect protein industry. I'll just put my notes down. I'm not going to talk about what this Incredible is going to speak to you about today, but I'm going to talk about the linkages here around what has been occurring that you can take away from the insect protein market today. What we've seen in the last few years is an incredible validation of the insect protein industry as a whole. Now, you can look at that in a couple of ways. The money and capital going into research, whether it's the ventures themselves through universities, is showing the broader proteins market how valuable switching to insect protein is. Now, depending on the hashtag that you like, you can really look at how you can include that into your own products, whether it's the ESG compliance, whether we're talking circular economy. Or I think one of the most fascinating things I find about it is the synergy that lies behind utilising insect protein. So you might be using straight up proteins in your pet food, and before people would think, oh, insect proteins are a little bit too expensive, prices are coming down, but it's more about what things like chitin and other ingredients, as I said, I'm not going to pretend I'm a specialist, that's the panel, what it brings in a synergistic manner to your product. Now that synergistic manner isn't just in utilising insect proteins as feed, but synergistic around your business as a whole. So what we're seeing now is larger US companies buying into setting up their own insect protein as part of their value chains, smaller businesses bringing that in also. But what we've got for you today is a really good deep dive into why. So what we're going to do is we'll have the speakers come up and talk and present one by one. And during this process, we'll have the Slido. So this is a QR code if you'd like to take out your phones now. And we'll start collecting questions during each of the panel sessions, each of the presentations. After that, we're going to have a moderated panel. So we'll start with some of the Slido questions or questions from the audience as well. So this is the prime opportunity to really pick the brains of the experts, because this is a market that's changing and evolving. The barriers that used to be there, whether it was perceptions about insect protein, the ick factor, the cost factor, have all been eroded. So this is the perfect time to look at insect protein as the future of pet food. And on that, I'll hand over to the panelists to come up and present, of which, Cameron, are you first or? Oh, sorry, Jean. I'd like to welcome Jean to the stage for your presentation.
Thank you. So, good morning, everyone. Super excited for being here. But before I press this to move to the next slide, I was wondering if anybody is scared of the insect pictures, like real insect pictures. Anybody? No? Okay, when I was making my presentation, finding some insect pictures and thinking if I should add it to my presentation. And then I answered, my conclusion is no, because it's my first time being on this international stage, and I don't want to lose my focus when I see some face of the audience like, oof, or maybe you don't want to see some scary pictures. Okay, so don't worry, I will not put some pictures that make you uncomfortable. Okay, let's start. So my presentation today is mainly about the question. One question that I found is quite interesting. It is why the cricket protein and other insect protein could become one of the most common source of protein for pet food in the very near future. And if I have enough time, I will try to cover on more questions like why it's not happening right now, and cover on the question like how we could speed it up. Okay, so to answer this question, I think the best place to start is to look at the trend. Sorry, but can you share my screen? Okay, just one moment. Okay, I will talk during this moment. So there are two trends that we can see in the pet industry. One of them is the premiumization or someone might consider it as equal as the humanization. And the other one, the sustainability, which is quite obvious for everyone and in other industry as well. So no one knows how long these two trends gonna last, maybe many years or many decades, but I strongly believe that it will last for not just a short term. And when we look at them quickly, we may have no questions about them. But if we zoom in and start to think clearly, we may realize that these two trends actually they conflict each other, and it is interesting to see how they can get along together in the pet food industry and in the long term, especially when we still rely on the conventional protein from animal like chicken, like beef or fish. So to help you have the clearer picture of this, I will explain like this. It is found that when when they see on the product, they value the ingredients more than the nutrition that the diet actually gives to the pets. And it is interesting because if we use it as a criteria to classify how premium the product is, this is how it's gonna look like. So when we see the economic grade pet food, we will see the higher amount of the vegetable products like soy, corn, or wheat. And then when it becomes more premium, we will see some byproduct from animals, and maybe it's a mix between byproduct and some meat. And then when it becomes more premium, like normal premium or super premium, you will see the claims like 100% human grade meat or 0% byproduct, no grain, no gluten. And in short, so more protein from animal, more premium. And this just help explain that we can see more meat supply in the countries with higher income. So we can see what we can see. We can see that the premiumization or humanization is going toward to more meat consumption. However, what we can see at the same time is that some non-profit organization or some experts, they recommend humans to eat less meat to save the planet, right? So now you can see that it's going to totally different way when we try to humanize our companion animals. But keep in mind that it is not wrong because they are different species to human and they do need meat to survive. But my point is that the two trends, they may not get along together in the long term when we use the conventional protein like chicken, beef, and fish. So now is the time to let me explain why that the insect could become our superhero to solve this situation. So in terms of the sustainability, we all know that livestock production, they are such resource hunger. They use so much feed, so much land and water, and they contribute so many carbon footprint. But on the other hand, insects like cricket, they use very low amount of feed, low amount of water and land to produce each 1 kilogram of protein. So like in the chart here. And more importantly, they also contribute to very low greenhouse gases. So it's very safe, very friendly to the planet. So everything is checked for the sustainability angle. But you may be still questioning if this is the only thing that insect can provide. maybe pet owners still concerned if their pet can survive with the insects. And actually the answer is yes. You can see this is the benefits that we can give from the insect like cricket. So the cricket have 3 times more protein than beef. It has all amino acid for dogs. It has omega-6 and rich in vitamin, like more vitamin B12, 10% than salmon. And it also have perfect calcium to phosphorus ratio. And also it provide natural fiber because it's chitin. And not just only that, it's not only meet the nutrition requirement, but it also has more functional benefit like it can improve the gut microbiota. It is highly digestible. It has high palatability. It is found that it has the antimicrobial peptides. It also has a high amount of antioxidant. And some pet owners buy insect-based product just because it is the hypoallergenic option. So, sound pretty good, right? So, I would say that it's not just comparable to the conventional protein, but also it adds more functional value to the product with just a single ingredient. So it is no doubt when you see some company in other market, they actually launch their insect-based product like cricket treat for dogs, and you will see this claim on that product like complete amino acid, no byproduct, hypoallergenic, and also natural fiber, and at the same time, it also address the question on the sustainability of the pet food, like low greenhouse gas emission, save water, preserve land, reduce deforestation, and also improve biodiversity. Okay, the time is running up, so I will just keep it short. So even though there are some like barriers that we need to overcome to make insect protein more common to use as the ingredient for pet food, yeah, this is some barriers that we need to keep in mind. But my point of view, the most important one is the consumer acceptance, because insect do have the disgust factor. Someone, especially in Westerners, they don't see it as as a normal thing. So they may reluctant when they give it to the pet. So when it also relates to the culture, and when we talk about culture, it means that we need a lot of time to change. So that's why I think consumer acceptance is still the crucial one for the pet food. And these are the 4 key drivers that will drive the volume of insect protein. And out of these 4, I think I can see that the 2 of them, which is R&D and marketing, are the most important one. We need R&D to address the concern on health and on food safety. We need the right marketing to promote the true functional benefit of the insects. And yeah, we need the right marketing to change the perception of the consumer. So this is my last slide. I will just give you my last point of view. I strongly believe that at some point when all barriers can be overcome, I think that at that point, people will find the true value of the cricket and other insect protein. And perhaps we will not just use the insect just for the sustainability angle, but also the premiumization angle. We will see a lot of functional benefit from them. So let's see what is going to happen. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you very much, Gene. As we wait for Nam to come up, it's actually a perfect segue. One of the most toughest consumers is your pets, right? But I'll let you walk down, and while we
Okay.
wait for
Thanks.
while we wait for Nam to come up for his presentation, I train a lot of impact ventures, and we always talk about end consumer and end buyer, and I think the pet food industry is a big thing of that. But you not only have to satisfy the taste of the pet, but also the owner who's purchasing it as well, which is actually great timing that you're here, Nam, to talk about texturization of pet food, because if they don't eat it, you're not going to buy it, right? Anyway, over to you. You've got the mic.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. And Ian, I was supposed to speak about texturized cricket protein in pet food, but then it was kind of overlapping content between me and Global Bug. So I'm rather to talk more about the global legal status, whether it is legal to use cricket as an ingredient in pet food globally, and some of the trial we have with some of the pet food manufacturer. So firstly, I'm Nam from Cricket One, a co-founder and CEO. We are cricket manufacturer based in Vietnam. So regarding the insect protein pet food market, according to a market survey by an insect protein company called Protix, at the end of 2022, there's a 43 active brand pet food made from insects and active in 5 pet food category, and most of them come from Europe, from North America, and to the moment we spotted more players from Japan, from Australia, from Korea, and also India. So at the moment we assume that there's around 60 pet food brands using insect protein in pet food. And what are the popular marketing claims in the pet food products? First, it's sustainable. It uses less water, less feed, less land, etc. It's good for the health of the pet. It's good for the gut system. It's good for digestion system. It improves the immune system. It the brain health and hypoallergenics. So consumer acceptance towards pet food protein over the world has been increasingly when they become more aware of the health value and sustainable value of pet food made from insects. So there's quite a lot of people asking me whether there's any chance that cricket can compete against black soldier fly in the insect pet food category. Actually, they are quite very different. Cricket is a human-grade food. It's fed on human-grade feed ingredients, while black soldier fly larva is a feed-grade ingredients. Cricket is very expensive, and then for that reason, for the pet food industry, we look at the premium pet food segment where we have to compete with ingredients like chicken, like beef or turkey, etc. On the other hand, black soldier fly larva can sell at very affordable price, and they look at the mainstream pet food markets. Talking about global regulation, whether is it legal to use cricket protein as a pet food ingredient in USA, in Europe, or in Japan or not? In US, the FDA oversees the food and feed ingredient imports. It's illegal to sell cricket as a pet food ingredient or make the pet food from crickets. The FDA read that a substance is generally recognized to be safe among qualified experts, and cricket is regarded as safe among expert view, even though there is no FDA crash notification to be sent already. But the FDA highly advise us, producer like us, to send a notification for notification doser in any case. In Europe, there's a law to regulate food and feed. In order to use insect in food, it must come from an authorized country. So far, there are 5 countries authorized to market cricket ingredient in Europe, including Switzerland, Korea, Canada, Vietnam, and Thailand. So outside those 5 countries, it's not allowed to sell food. And the second criteria is that it must come from an authorized producer, which has submitted novel food doses and approved by the European AFFIA. And globally, there's only 2 producers authorized by AFFIA. In the feed categories, it's the same regulation in Europe. It must come from an authorized country and authorized producer with traces. In Japan, there's no specific regulation, so it's quite a beautiful country. The AFCO definition of crickets as ingredient is a moment that most brand, most player in the market is waiting for. The tentative definition is on the table of the AFCO ingredient definition committee, and is applicable to dry cricket for adult dogs. So following the official definition by AFCO, brand and food producer and retailer can adopt cricket protein as a main ingredient in pet food for adult dog in the US. And also AFCO tentative definition read that the dry crickets must contain no more than 7.5% in chitin, which is the popular ratio for most of the dry crickets. Now, talking about some of the trial, one of the trial we have with the Japanese pet food company using a cricket ingredient. So the purpose of this trial was that we decide whether to use cricket powder or the frozen cricket paste in making the pate for the wet canned pate for cats, and how does it perform against the control diet, which is the chicken pate. So the cricket is used as the main source of protein for cat, and the diet with cricket powder is added with the cricket broth to make it more palatable to the cats. For the cricket paste is processed by grinding, packing, and batch cooking into paste and freezing. And then the producer hire third-party marketing company to did a market palatability evaluation on 32 cats. So this is the nutrition components of the cricket powder and cricket paste, as well as the final diets. The powder contains 67% protein, around 19% fat. The paste contains 17% protein, 3.5% in fat, and the diets, the final diet is formulated to have 10% in protein, 1.3% in fiber, and 2.5% in fat. So this is the key summarized results. In terms of structure, it's quite easy to form the pate style for using either cricket powder, cricket paste, or the control, which is the chicken pate. In terms of appearance, the appearance is not really a strong point of cricket protein in pet food, because it has some dark spotted with exoskeleton. In the case we use cricket paste, it has lighter color, but still the exoskeleton is really there. We got some spotted, and it's not really appeal to the pet owner. The browning of the product happen during cooking, because it's used slow cooking. So enzymatic browning due to low cooking will happen to cricket powder diet, but it's not happen to cricket paste and the control one. When they fed the diet to to the cats, they come immediately. So the Triton is really good. And then the feed intake was less than in the control, less than the control in the cricket powder diets, but more if we use the cricket paste versus the diet. So which means that the cricket paste in the cat food is very palatable to the cat and to the cats. So other consideration whether to use the powder or the paste in pet food product is whether you make the dry pet food product or wet pet food product. If you make wet pet food products, paste is better than powder. If you make dry, the powder is much better. The second consideration is region. In Europe, you cannot import the wet paste, but you can import the cricket powder. And logistic-wise, cricket paste is very complicated. It requires a lot of frozen capacity to formulate the final products right in time. I think that's it for my presentation. Thank you so much for listening.
Thanks very much, Nam. Don't forget, we'll be taking questions via the Slido if you took the QR code. Thanks very much.
Yeah.
For that, we'll invite our next presenter to the stage, Leo from Protenga, who will take us through palatability. And please remember, we will take normal questions as well. Thanks, Leo. Take it away.
Thank you very much. All right. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining for this session. My name is Leo. I am the founder of Protenga. We are an insect technology and insect nutrition company based in Singapore with our operations in Malaysia. And we focus, unlike our previous speaker, on the black soldier fly as our insect of choice. And in today's session, I want to talk a little bit more about the concept and importance of palatability and what contribution insects can make to that topic. We've heard already in the previous sessions and generally that insects are suitable as a nutritional and functional ingredient in pet foods to support a whole range of important claims, from well-balanced nutrition to highly digestible to hypoallergenic to promoting health to better skin and coat. A lot of claims that can be built around also validated trials for insect-based nutrition. However, it all falls flat when the cat and the dog don't eat the food, right? So palatability is the precondition, the precursor to materializing any benefit from any insect-based ingredients, but of course also generally any pet food. And so the question when looking at a new ingredient is, do cats like it? Do dogs like it, right? Does it deter? Does it contribute to the palatability? And palatability is actually a really difficult and kind of profound topic, and a topic of very intense competition among pet food manufacturers and pet food brands. It's not just do they like it, but do they like my food and my formulation better than every other big company's food preparation, right? And the challenges around the palatability are multifold. Many different breeds, many different physiologies, gender, age that play a role. It is an aspect where we have limited feedback. It is also a factor where habit and fatigue can play a big role. So what is the nutrition that a animal has grown up with, and what does that inform in terms of its preferences? And then, like a lot of animals, there can be fatigue over time as an effect on palatability. And then throughout the course of fatigue also related to age and changes. And so what actually makes the palate? Turns out that felines and canines are very different in their sensory perception and in what makes their attractiveness. Felines have only 470 taste buds, while dogs have a lot more, 1,700. That just creates kind of different challenges around each, because the modes of action for identifying food and approaching food and identifying the suitability of food between canine and feline is different. For cats, they cannot detect sweetness, for example, while for canines they can. And then in nature, at least, cats are obligate carnivores. I think the pet industry is trying to partially change that to a degree, but these are kind of factors that make the palatability framework. And then within the industry, there are a number of practices that have been developed as proxies to evaluate the palatability and to compare the palatability. We usually see single bowl test as the acceptance test, right? As straightforward, do they like it and do they like it over time? And then two bowl tests as the method of choice to evaluate preference and preference over a few markers, right? Approach, bite, finish, repeated preference. And so what are the factors that make insects palatable or not, right? And from our experience, having worked on insect-based pet foods for the last 2.5, 3 years, there are a number of factors that can make the palatability. One is the husbandry practices and the feed used. Another one is the processing method. Just like a coffee bean from the tree doesn't smell like anything, it's the processing and the correct roasting at the right settings that brings out the aroma. And it's very much the same with insects. You can create quite a range of flavor profiles with insects. And then you have the amino acids and the relatively low molecular weight of amino acids in the insect proteins that play a role in creating fragrance and palatability. And of course the fat, the insect oil, as a carrier of flavor as well. What has been done to ascertain that and kind of to validate the modes of actions? There's been a very nice study done in Poland in 2018. That study was comparing a range of 4 different insect species that were air dried and then presented to dogs in a kind of closed box, purely for organoleptic, for smell response in comparison with a conventional kibble. The study found that indeed the smell response measured by a kind of sustained 15-second interest into the dried insect. So without further processing, all insect species dried in the same way and presented to actually result in statistically similar responses as to the commercial feed. Within Pretenga, we've also done a range of different trials. I just want to highlight 2 aspects of them. One, a single bowl test on a wet food formulation, which was a single protein formulation, so only insect as the black soldier fly in our case as the protein and fat contributor in it, so more than 50% inclusion. And that was tested with more than 50 dogs in Malaysia of different breeds, different age, different gender, in a replicate assessment, measuring whether they eat it quickly or slowly, intermittently or not at all. That study found that 84% of the 52 dogs ate the presented food and ate it in the first sitting. So they recognized it as food and they accepted it and they ate it as such. And to our knowledge, that's the highest kind of insect inclusion trial done that has been published. In another trial, we asked the question, do they prefer meat or insects? And this was again on dogs. And here we used a dry kibble that was coated with an insect preparation at 3% versus a conventional lamb-based kibble. And so in this trial, it was a 2-bowl test where position was controlled as well for for bias in that test, we found that the preference was evenly distributed between the conventional lamb-based kibble and the insect protein-coated kibble. And so from these trials, and we have quite a range of other trials. If you're interested, I'm happy to speak about that with you. We've over the time really demonstrated that in the right preparation and in the right usage, insects can not only support the palatability of a pet food formulation, but can actually enhance the palatability of pet food formulation and provide a basis and a pathway for increased palatability that does not depend on conventional palatin systems that often rely on chicken livers and other kind of animal intestine-based hydrolysate solutions. And so what we are doing with Pretenga in our proposition to the pet food industry is really creating products that aim at the palatability as a key proposition with our protein ingredient. We supply a protein powder and an oil to the pet food industry, but also with a specialty ingredient series that specifically aims to enable meat palatin-free formulations that can compete on the bowl, on the dogs and the cat's bowl with more conventional meat-based ingredients. And so with that, I'd like to conclude my talk and pass it back to Ian. Thank you very much, and happy to speak with you afterwards if you'd like to learn more. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you very much, Leo. Just a reminder that we do have a panel after this session. Cameron from Veolia is our last speaker for the day. And joining us on the panel is Wei from Global Bugs, so you'll get a wide range. You've already heard Leo speak about black soldier fly, Jean looking at from the vet's angle with cricket protein. Cameron's about to come up now for the last presentation to look at that, and then we'll have a couple of minutes in between this final presentation and setting up a panel where you'll be able to ask questions that the panel will answer, including with we from Global Bugs as well. Thanks very much, Cameron.
Thanks very much, Ian. And thank you to all to be here. It's great to be here, and I'll be presenting to you today on more of an overview of the use of insect meal in pet food, focusing on functional benefits, which we've touched on already. The quality of the protein, I'll be giving you a little bit more details, so some numbers associated with that. And then looking into the market as well. Just to introduce myself, my name is Cameron Richards. I work for Veolia. So, yes, the same Veolia that you may know. It's the big multinational company that you may know about, involved in waste management and energy. Veolia has recently got into bioconversion, or the process of converting organic byproducts using insects, and we have an industrial facility in Malaysia and a research facility there too. All right, so let's kick off. So from an EU legislative point of view, there's permitted insect ingredients or products to be used in pet food, and the most diverse insect products in pet food when compared to other livestock industries, and that includes the protein, fat, live insects. Live insects would then be used for your ornamental pets like spiders and lizards, etc., and then whole dried insects. So because of this diversity of product availability from insects into pet food, there's a lot of opportunity for both the producers and the buyers who are producing pet foods using insect products. So is it any good? Are insect products any good? To answer this question, I'll be focusing the rest of my presentation on the protein products, simply because it's the most abundant insect product available, and a lot of the work I'll be presenting is on dog food, because that's where a lot of the research has been. There's a lot of research into that. All right, so some numbers for you. We've heard already that protein from insects is a good, suitable alternative protein. And here's some numbers for you to see that. So when comparing between BSF is black soldier fly. It's one of the insect species that are used in the insect industry and produced there. Comparing to poultry meal, which is a very common source of protein, soybean and fish meal, you can see it's a very competitive quality protein. In fact, all of the basic proximate analysis parameters are comparable and competitive. The only one that may be a little bit high is fiber, but that may be a good thing in the sense, and I'll talk to you a little bit more about that later, when it comes to prebiotics and gut health. But regardless, it's a competitive protein. For the amino acid composition, again, you can see here, looking on the right-hand side, or the left-hand side, sorry, this is the minimum amino acid composition required for dogs. And on here, you've got black soldier fly. And you can see that all the essential amino acids are covered by, or provided by black soldier fly and insects. Here, digestibility is a major talking point, a major selling point for the insect industry. There was a very good paper done in 2014 by Bosch, which summarized digestibility on two different methods, so the in vitro and fecal method, on a whole host of insect species. And basically, there were three main categories. There was a category which I've highlighted in green here, which, regardless of the method used and regardless of which reference material you compare to, it always exceeds it always provided a better digestibility parameter. Then you have a group in red, which is always providing a worse digestibility, and then you have a group in orange, which some metrics always provide an improved digestibility, and others provide a mix, so sometimes less, sometimes more. And then since this paper in 2014, there's been a lot more research done specifically on black soldier fly, and it's more or less the majority of the research has found that there's an improved digestibility when using black soldier fly meal as a digestibility parameter, and some of them were saying that the difference to the control was not significant. So digestibility, another positive for the insect. Functional benefits here. We've got hyperallergenic and immune-boosting properties and improved gut health are major functional benefits for insects. Anti-inflammatories and antioxidants are another group, both being demonstrated in insects. And of course, another claim is sustainability, which we've heard a little bit about already. And basically, the main claims are around protein conversion ratios and water. We heard before, water use, improved water use, and reduced CO2. So insects are a very obvious sustainable alternative to alternative protein to use. So we can see it's a very good source of protein in insects. Is it being used? And the answer is yes. It's being used extensively, actually, already in many products. So these are some of the big products, but the reason why I put these up is because of what they're posting on their website. So they put in claims like digestibility, which we've talked about. We've talked about hyperallergen and sustainable. These are main claims that is really important and linked very closely with insects. Similarly, another product, also hyperallergenic and health. benefits. But there are lots of products, lots of companies. More than this. This is not a complete list. One of the reasons I put this up is just to give you an idea of inclusion rates that are being used. So it's between 10 and 32%. So it gives you a sense of, if you're thinking about using insect products, it gives you a sense of how much you can include and what is currently being included. And then this is an idea of where the insect ingredients are being used in which products. So mostly, you can see here, mostly it's dry dog food, then it's wet dog food, and then it's dry cat food. But by far the majority of the applications are within dog food, and by far the number of, by far the biggest source of insects is black soldier fly. I should mention that this research is done in Europe, so perhaps if it's been done in Asia, you may see more indication of crickets here. Yeah. Anyhow, and then regarding to the market, this is market ranking. And here, there's basically three main parameters that came out of a survey, again done in Europe. And these three main claims, I guess, were sustainability, which we've heard about. So that these are all ones that are currently being used on existing products. Hyperallergenic comes back, gut health, and digestibility. So these are all readily available, readily used claims in the industry. And then this is some data, another very interesting piece of data here, about how customers are perceiving insect ingredients or insect products in pet food products. And you can see here the main claim that comes into focus is sustainability. So that seems to be a very important point for customers buying pet foods containing insects. Just to give you a quick update, we're currently performing our own trial. Veolia is relatively new in bioconversion, so this is our first trial that we're performing on both cats and dogs. We'll run it for 17 days, and we'll be testing for cats a 5 and 10% inclusion, and a 10 and a 20% inclusion for dogs, and we'll focus mostly on digestibility and palatability. And it's an association with the universities here in Bangkok. So yeah, and a good consulting firm for 4C. So just in summary, we see that the quality of insect meal is competitive to existing other protein products. We have numerous functional benefits that can be used and that are not associated with other protein products. It's highly digestible, and it's already actively being used in the pet food market. Just a quick information for you who would like to learn more about insects. There's a major insect conference happening in Singapore next year. It's in June to 19th to the 22nd. So if you'd like to learn more specifically about insects, this is somewhere where you can come and learn more about that. But thank you very much. Again, if you'd like to learn even more, our AFFIA booth is AD 2027. It's just down that way. And you can come and speak to any one of us. There's a number of different companies. Leo's there, myself is there. So please come and have a chat. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Cameron. So if you'll just bear with us for a couple of minutes, we're about to just set up the stage for the panel. We'll bring up, there we go. If we can bring up the Slido questions if that's possible, while we change over. As you can see, there's an incredible movement now in the research that's validating all of our original assumptions behind the benefits of insect protein going into pet foods in a variety of ways. So please start to get prepared for your questions as we wait for the panel to come up. If I can invite Leo, Wee from Global Bugs will be joining us, Cameron and Jean. No, there's 5 and me. Okay, classic. Which business product? Sometimes I think I can't even think in English. This is terrible being an Australian. I did promise everyone that I'd try and speak English today because no one would understand my Australian accent. So as we get it set up, let's look through a couple of these. Which business pain is your product solving? And I love it. This is definitely a Cameron Pretenga question. What's the difference of insect protein molecular weight compared to chicken protein? So someone's bringing the science today. Okay, thank you very much, everyone, for presenting today. Just before we get into these questions, would you mind just giving us a quick introduction about your company, Global Bugs, and what it does?
Yes, thank you. We are Global Bugs, and I am Ganit Sanan, the CEO and the co-founder of Global Bugs Asia. We started Global Bugs since 2015 with the closed-ended farm in Hua Hin, Thailand. And we also thereafter built the process factory, which HACCP certified for crickets. Thank you.
I feel like this is almost a let's get ready to rumble panel. I've got the black soldier fly guys this side and the cricket teams on that side. I think sometimes, I mean, we have some questions up there, but the thing I love about this sector is everyone, because it's so new, there's always so much more research coming out that, again, proves the market is coming. So my question will be just very quickly, from the panelists, what do you think the takeaway was from each of your presentations? Like, what is the burning thing that really impressed you or something that you would take away that you didn't know before? Is there anything?
Thanks for the question. No, I have to admit, although I am a trained, qualified entomologist. I have a PhD in entomology. I don't know much about, or too much about the cricket industry. I have to admit that. I've worked a lot with housefly. I've worked a lot with blowfly. I've worked a lot with black soldier fly, but not crickets. So whenever I attend events, it's the one topic that I really do like to listen to because I know there's it's got already a lot of traction, and I do feel sometimes I'm left behind there. So yeah.
Okay, anyone else before we go to the audience for any questions?
For me, as a marketing background, I feel that it is the most challenging products I have ever got into, because I have to challenge the clients, have to challenge that cricket tastes good, and it's okay to eat crickets.
Yeah, and it does link back into overcoming the business pain point. And I think this question, I mean, we could answer it, but a lot of it's not what we're solving. It's about where the pet food customers are looking to get a competitive edge. And that's their pain point, right? Because as you can see from the presentations, and definitely in Thailand as a centre of the Asian pet food industry, companies are going to keep needing a competitive edge. Now, if that's on sustainability, on supply chain, nutritional content, and as you're talking about the synergistic elements of the proteins, I think that's the pain point that the insect protein industry is solving. So I'll just check, was there any questions from out? Okay, if not, warm yourselves up. We're going to the science. Who wants to talk about, now these are very big words, so I apologize, the molecular weight difference between chicken protein and insect protein? And maybe if someone can actually bring that back to the common term for people like me.
Yeah, so molecular weight will refer to the size of the peptides within your protein. I don't know much about chicken molecular weight, but BSF I can speak a little bit about. Roughly 15% of the molecular weight of BSF, black soldier fly, is below 100. What's the bases? Yes. Sorry, and that's largely because of the antimicrobial peptides. So black soldier flies, other insects too, have antimicrobial peptides. They're small peptides. I'm not sure if chicken proteins contain antimicrobial peptides. I would need to ask to maybe you guys know, but that's to my knowledge in terms of where the benefits are at least. It would be in that 15%. Yeah.
I mean, Gene, you're the vet.
But yeah, I graduated from vet school, but right now, since the graduation, I have not been with animal at all. So yeah, my point of view maybe not relate so much about the clinical things.
Yeah.
But yeah, in terms of some business, I can answer some questions.
That's kind of like me saying I graduated from modelling academy.
Yeah.
But it's great. We have Leo on the panel. So, Leo.
Yeah, so on the molecular weight comparison, I think there are a few levels on which to look at it, right? One is the fresh insect material versus a fresh chicken material. When we speak chicken material, then do we speak about the breast meat, or do we talk about chicken byproduct meal? That will have a different molecular weight distribution. And so I think, as Cameron said, one of the things that characterizes the black soldier fly specifically, and I can only speak about black soldier fly as our insect of focus, is that it naturally has a relatively high proportion of low molecular weight amino acids, so amino acid chains. And that's characterized through the antimicrobial function of some of these short chain amino acids, those peptide chains. But then once you process the product, you have different factors that change the molecular weight distribution of the product, and that will be the same whether you're using a poultry material or whether you're using an insect material, right? Heat changes the molecular structure. So when you have the sterilization step, when you have the cooking and drying step, you're changing the molecular structure. pH changes the molecular structure, the molecular weight distribution. Enzymes can change the molecular weight distribution, and so what is the effect of that? One is that there is functional properties that are derived of the presence or absence of peptides. Certain peptides, not all of them, and so molecular weight per se doesn't tell you something about that. It just gives you a quantitative distribution range, and then you have flavor that is also derived of peptides, and so some ranges actually have more of a bitter flavor and can be deterrent, and some ranges have roasty, savory, meaty, fishy notes which are palatizing and which are attractive. And so the molecular weight distribution gives you a proxy on that, but it doesn't actually, it's not the determinant, let's say, of it. In general, if you're using the same processing method for a poultry material, you will be able eventually to reach similar molecular weight distributions as you are able to reach with insect proteins, but the function might not be the same because it's not a determinant of function per se.
Cool. Thanks very much for that, Leo. And coming back to the palatability, now I'd love to ask you, Cameron, but I saw that you were very, dogs and mongrel cats. So I need to go, for all the cat lovers out there, I felt like, woof. So I want to come over to Nam, who wasn't so judgmental about the cats that were doing the testing. When you look at the palatability and testing between dogs and cats, is it something that can be generalized around that, or does it always need to be brought back into the specific species and age brackets around that too?
Well, in my opinion, we cannot generalize it. I think it had to be specific for every species, and then we have to collect like a preference test for this kind of species. Maybe cat love it, but dog doesn't love it. So we need to collect separate data for different species. And even like maybe this thing work on cat,
not working on dog is quite normal thing here.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, if they don't eat it, people don't buy it again, right? Someone has a question here. What is the current selling range? Now, I'm not going to ask for any trade secrets from you, but maybe we could reframe it as saying, what do you think pet food companies are looking at the expected range they're trying to purchase insect protein in for? Do you find the industry is settling in on a buying range that suits their sort of margins, or how much percentage of insect protein's going in? And obviously, if it's too sensitive, we just skip to the next question. So,
happy to share some view on it. I think the entry point of insect proteins into pet food, especially in Europe, has been driven by a desire for product differentiation and novelty, and the idea of being able to pass on the insect proposition to as a value proposition to the customer. And I think that's been successful in Europe within a niche market. And in that application, in that value chain, there's a significant willingness to pay premium prices. And so it's considered in the premium kind of specialty animal protein range, similar to crocodile meat or rabbit meat or other kind of niche proteins. Over time, as there's more supply coming online, and it is about moving more into mainstream applications, diversifying the applications, because novelty by definition is not a sustainable proposition. I think the willingness to pay in pet food in general is not higher than in aqua feed or in other feeds, right? There's a very intense competition in the mainstream pet food on the formulation cost basket. And so the expectation, especially in Thailand, where a lot of, kind of mid-range and mass market products are produced, is can insects become a poultry meal competitive product? And I think it's about whether that will be the case or not, or whether it will stay in the niche, or whether it will go into more nuanced application where the value doesn't come from novelty product differentiation. And I think that's what we are all working towards, developing those validations and those use cases that will determine then also the competitive market pricing over time.
Yeah, so thanks. You're actually a great segue into which product segment insect protein sort of refers to in terms of premium and diet. But with all of your research, and as Leo's just said, we can't stay novel forever and going into premium. Where do you see the market going now? Like, what changes it? Will it move from premium into mainstream? And what do you think needs to occur for that?
I think I take this question because from my experience, I feel that it's very hard to convince the consumer that as the price of the cricket today, it's very early stage, so the price is quite high. But when comparing to the cost calculation, you can claim that you can make 50% more profit, while you just add like 3% from your cost. It means that if you used to sell at 500, maybe you add 10% of cricket powder, and then you get 15% more price. That was my experience.
Yeah, and do you think that's going to change, Cameron?
Yeah, it's a good point, and something that I think we're all wrestling with. But in terms of volumes itself, the insect industry will probably always, I would imagine, be behind our mainstream products, protein suppliers, like your chicken meal, for example. So that will always limit the ability of insects to be used as a mainstream alternative. I think it'll always be used as an alternative protein. I think. I mean, of course, I would love to be wrong, right? In 20 years, I would love the fact that the insect industry has boomed but yeah, it's that's just my personal perception. Yeah.
Which is interesting, because I'll come to Nam. I mean, you've now just scaled up again. And is it a case of, okay, if we're not going to catch the price point, getting it as close as you can through scale? So that's sort of one question, but also looking at the pricing of insect proteins out of North America. And I think, so my question is around, do we try and catch it and close the gap? Or did you just say, well, look, production in Asia our access to inputs, cost of labour, allows us to be competitive anyway, so we don't need to. Do you have any thoughts on where the market's going for that?
Well, in my view, I think as I said, we look at the we don't look at the mainstream market. Look at the premium pet food market, and in that premium pet food market, we compete against the product like chicken, like beef, like quite premium products, and we see cricket protein in whatever form, like frozen, in powder, protein powder, very competitive against those kind of products like food grade. So I think even at the end of the day, we can trade it at the cheaper price compared with the conventional product that the premium manufacturer are using. The way we're seeing now is that, like for example, we're working with manufacturer in Japan, and then they start very small. And the rationale behind working with insect protein is that they want to do an SDG project. So ESG, SDG, ESG is a huge thing now, and they don't care so much about price. So we can sell to them at the premium. And so normally they buy 100 kilogram, 200 kilogram, making some products launch to the market and waiting for the market to respond. And if the buyer willing to pay premium for those kind of like SDG products, they make more, and even they can sell at premium price. And even we can sell we can sell at cheaper price and make them much more profitable, even compared with the conventional ingredient source.
Yeah.
Maybe if I can add kind of my my forecast for the next couple of years, I think there will be an entry point where insect proteins are a quality protein, and so they will not be in the bottom range of the pet food segment. They will remain in the upper market, mid upper and premium market in formulation. I think the interesting step will be when it comes into the formulation without being the headliner on the front label, because that's today the case. If somebody's using insect protein, usually they talk about it explicitly on the label as a differentiation. What I see is that will continue within a niche, but that is a niche, and not everyone wants to buy a insect-based pet food where you have a big insect on the front label. But then you have propositions on no antibiotics, no medication, no kind of fully clean environment, fully clean indoor production, full traceability, that support clean that support clean label premium brand propositions and positionings that go beyond the sustainability factor. And I think that will be a segment itself, especially in the veterinary, in the sensitive diet, and the monoprotein diet spectrum, which is a relevant market niche. And then the protein itself, and Cameron mentioned functional attributes, right? It has good forming properties, it has good gelling properties. There's interesting functional attributes that you can leverage with the insect protein in wet pet food formulations, where it's not necessarily used because you want to put it on the label, but simply because it makes the product better. It has good physiological attributes, and we're with our collective R&D kind of every year uncovering and validating more of that in terms of, let's say, truly digestion and, let's say, poop quality, right? And longitudinal effects that will become more apparent, and where there's going to be a better databases over time, and they will I think move the ingredient into a more widespread applications, where it's not necessarily it has to be the insect formulation, but it can also be a chicken recipe, a premium chicken recipe that is supported by a 3% or 5% insect protein inclusion, similar to what we see in aquafeed, where aquafeed manufacturers today, they are not really talking or thinking about how can we use insect protein to substitute all of our fish meal, but how can it add value in the formulation?
I find that fascinating in the sense that it comes back to end user, end consumer, right? Or end buyer. Because most of the market that are aware of buying a premium pet food product is aware of what they're feeding their pet. So it's an interesting case, and I'll come to Jean on this one first. Does it require a vet, or as you can see, everyone, you're investing in R&D, you're working with universities. Where's the tipping point, do you think, that people will say, okay, this is a premium protein, it has all of these additional benefits. How do we make the buyer, the fur parent, aware to get them over the line to start purchasing? What do you think is going to remove that barrier?
Yeah, thanks for the question. So, according to my view, I can see so many papers, I mean scientific papers on the clinical trial on dogs and cats. But anyway, I think it's not enough to address the concern of the pet owners around the world. I need, for example, if you can see that it's very low amount of papers on the clinical in cats, I usually see only dogs. So, and it's also about the regional part, because you know that different species of insect in different location, it brings different value of nutrition. So I'm not sure how we can like standardize them so that the papers can be generally accepted by all over the countries. Mm-hmm.
I mean, Nam, you've worked with 32 individual cats in this process, is that correct? So well, that was my attempt at humour. I'll stop there. I wanted to talk to you because definitely with the work that Cricket One are doing and what you talked about today, you're not just sitting in the dog food, dry pet food segment. You're actually already sort of going ahead of the wave and started looking at pate and everything. Again, in that, you can see at the pet fair, there's a lot of different canned pet food manufacturers here. Where do you think the tipping point would be in terms of getting it into the cat market? Because I'm not sure of the difference in spend rates, and it would be interesting, but clearly you don't want to be isolated into one product. So where do you think the tipping point is for the cat lovers of the world in moving into this?
Well, I think the very first thing is that whether it's dog food or cat food, I think the pet food market is very scientific driven. So you must collect enough data that these products can add this value to cat or dog, and then you have to make it publicly aware to the dog and cat parents. And then the second thing is that the dog and cats must love it. Like we have to do like a palatability test to feed them, and we need to prove that dogs and cats love it more than the conventional feed that they are trying. And then I think at the end of the day, it's all come back to education. You have to educate the buyer, which is the dog and cat's parent, that the value of the products, and then the additional value beside the nutrition, that you can also protect the environment and contribute to a cleaner world.
Mm. Yeah,
If
I'll come to you after this. Cameron and then we?
Yeah, if I can add to that. I think at the end of the day, it depends on what your customers want, right? And each market will have different needs. So in Europe, we saw today that sustainability is a real driver for the European market. I was in Europe last week, and I took 3 cars. I was driving 3 cars while I was in Europe, and all 3 of them were electric. And I think that's a direct response to what consumers want in Europe. They want to drive electric cars because they are seen as more environmentally friendly. They have big windmills there producing energy, and I was driving down the highway and I was imagining I'm driving a car that's powered by that wind turbine, and I was driving on the wind, and it made me feel really good, actually. And of course, we don't see that in other parts of the world, but I'm just using Europe as an example, aligning with the data that I presented today. So selling insects into Europe with that as a main driving force or factor, then insects, I think, has an edge, because it really does have, we know, a sustainable angle, a strong sustainable angle. And I believe the European market, or portions of the European markets, will will strongly want that in their products. And subsequently, perhaps the Asian market or Australasian market or the European, the US market, maybe they want something different. I don't know. Haven't looked into it. And then perhaps we'd need to see if the insect industry can answer those. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll definitely come back to that after we hear from Wee, because one of the questions was, okay, with Europe and North America driving the sustainability market, what's going to drive it in the Asian market? And we're definitely seeing more affluence, more middle class coming up, more pets. So it's an expanding market here. But to come back to it, what are your thoughts on this?
My thoughts get back to your tipping point. I love that word. But in my world, I love like the breakthrough. How could we do the breakthrough in this industry? I believe it still go back to the cost calculation, the first thing. And the second thing is, I think the consumer have heard every claims ever. We need to come up with something new, because right now Global Bucks is working with the research and development on the new claim that we try to see if this product can extend, have the life, the aging resistant. It means that what if as the dog owner, you can have your dog living 3 years or 4 years longer by using the insect as alternative protein. We are working on it right now. We are testing in animal, and in the next phase, we will test with a bigger animal. So something new will come to make the tipping point.
Because you wonder, is it at the risk of, what we call snake oil or a cure-all, and, is it the next big thing? So the thing I love about the insect protein industry is being aware of that and constantly building up a validated base of solid research. Nam, tipping point for you, and let's move this into also tipping point in Asia, and we'll come back to the panel around the Asian market.
In our target market, we look at mainly the US, Europe, and Japan market, because we look at the premium pet food market. We don't see like a huge market in Asia, so it's not really the right point for us to focus on the Asian market now. I think the tipping point is coming. I think this market is highly regulated. Like as I said, in Europe, there's tons of regulation to market the product. In Europe, in US, even AFFIA doesn't have a definition for to use like cricket protein in pet food product, and then brands manufacturer doesn't want to get involved into this part. But it's coming. So I think next year gonna be like a big year for human food insect protein product in first in US and then later Europe.
Anyone else on the panel like to talk about tipping points? If not, does any questions in the audience? If not, I'll switch on to another one from the Slido. But is there any burning questions? Yes?
And thank you for the presentations this morning. It was very interesting and certainly eye-opening. The question, I was just wondering, there's a lot of talk about digestibility, palatability. I was wondering about safety, so manufacturing safety. Is there an industry standard that's being applied, in particular for the black site BSF guys? Is there, the mycotoxin, the risk of mycotoxins? How is that being handled as an industry? Given the lack of regulation or...
who'd like to go first on that? Because I know actually everyone's hyper certified because you have to be to get into European markets, but you're the specialist. Who'd like to go first on answering certifications, or break it up across a couple if you like?
To be honest, it's obviously a very good question and an easy one to answer. And it's the reason it's easy is because the markets that we are targeting, European markets, the standard there is very high. To get into, I can of course only speak to Veolia. Each company will have their own standards, depending on which market they're targeting. But Veolia, it would be a GMP plus process, has HACCP certification, it's trace. Awarded, all those safety standards are met, and I think it's safe to say that is generally the case within the insect industry. It's difficult to sell a premium product without the highest standards achieved, I would say, yeah. That's my feeling here.
Leo or we?
Of course, we have gone through risk assessments because cricket in our farm we breed for human consumption actually, but I surprised that all the pet food company would like to have human grade. If the owner of the pet can eat, then the pet can eat too. And we also have all the lab tests that required under HACCP and HCPS standard.
For our company, our cricket powder is authorized by the AFFIA European Union to market in the European Union. And to get there, actually, we have to prove about, as we said, safety, stability, and nutrition value of the products. And then we had to collect kind of like data, historical data for 5 colony. In that, we had to test all kind of nutrition value, toxicology, allergen, and we have to prove that to the European Union that consuming this kind of product wouldn't affect the health of a consumer or the pet. So I think the safety is there already, and then the authority in Europe, in US already looked at that and they got kind of standards, and then the ratio for using insect protein in pet application already. So I think the only thing we have to care now is the certification for food premises.
Okay, and for me, I think we need to have more study to define the critical points that we need to control, whether it is the large scale or small scale production site. Yeah, and we need to find how likely that it can bring the hazard to our products, and and then after we define the critical point, we need to like make it more public to producer around the world. Okay.
Maybe one addition to that is the comparison with, let's say, poultry products, right? You have a poultry protein meal that is food quality for human consumption, and you have poultry meal that is fertilizer standard. Right? You have the full range, and in between you have feed standard, right? And within feed standard in the industry, you have a breakdown of different certifications and different assurances and traceability levels that then also define why certain poultry meals are sold 40% cheaper than others. And I think the animal protein space has developed a host of regulations, certifications, classifications that are by our customers and by the regulatory bodies applied to our insect ingredients as well. And so the basic assurance, the basic safety levels are governed by the same rules and by the same standards that apply for other animal products. And then oftentimes you have customers that have layered added standards and requirements, and they would apply to our insect ingredients in the same way as they would apply to, let's say, the poultry meals.
Thank you very much. Was there another question? Because one of the things that we can look at in the meantime, when we're looking at not just sustainability, but the macro of a business and looking at offsets and potentially looking at carbon credits. And one of the questions was, can we apply carbon credits to the difference between emissions related to beef protein, chicken and pork proteins versus cricket and black soldier fly? And in saying that, okay, well, if there's obviously some additional costs being reduced there or capital coming in through carbon markets, has anyone had any experience in this yet?
We look at that already. But actually in our country, in Vietnam, is a little bit early for carbon credit because the mechanism not really there and the market's not really there. what we're trying to do is that we're trying to do a bit of a carbon reporting first, like reporting the carbon footprint of like cricket farming, processing, and make it public to everyone. Like we have platform for that, and then so like the public audience can have like a benchmark to compare between these insects with like other livestock. So.
Yeah, I think the hard thing in the carbon market at the moment is they've just come through their own sort of tipping or breakthrough point in the fact that people now believe it, because there's definitely a lot of companies that came up and a lot of messiness around regulating and validating carbon credits. And so that seems to have really materialised properly now into measurable benefits or measurable outcomes. So does it come back to starting off with a report and then almost like the same thing where do we find the university that will give the data? Because we find in a lot of things people won't shift towards a market unless someone of, it sounds weird, reputable standing has said, yes, this is okay now, it's de-risked. Or we have a benchmark to say, I mean, we know all of the statistics around water usage, land usage, and put in all the rest of it, fertiliser. There's a significant benefit on that. But do you think there's a tipping point in that as well, or something we should expect?
For global bucks, I think there is long-term and short-term goal that we do. Right now, in our game board, is mostly cost effectiveness and the cost activity games to make the price of the cricket become lower so that we can compete. In the long-term goal, of course, the CEO footprint level will be on the game, but not right now. It's too early, too costly to implement that right now. But we know that we are part of the low carbon footprint game.
And Leo, your research in this area?
I think it's a Pandora's box. A lot can be said about that, and I think we're actively working on it. But I think next year's edition we're probably going to have more of our own data from assessments of the operations that we're able to share.
I probably should have just gone straight to you. I mean, Veolia is a global waste management company, right? So, I mean, you're like the leading global waste management company. So
yes, and thanks. We've done our an LCA, so life cycle assessment, and of course we've seen that the results are showing quite nicely that there is a sustainable angle to insect protein, but we've certainly not, as far as I know, although our GM is sitting in the room here, as far as I'm aware, we've not looked at capitalizing on any carbon credits. The way we're hoping to capitalize on the sustainable angle is to sell that as a claim, but perhaps there is something in there. I don't know enough about it to know how to go about capitalizing on it. But
I mean, it's interesting, even if it's not straight out carbon credits, but when you're talking about life cycle assessment, I mean, is this something that AFFIA as a whole needs to start promoting and saying, okay, the tipping point's not just consumers, the benefits of insect protein, as you say, everyone wants their fur pet to live another 3 years, right? But so do executives. They want their companies to live another 3 years. They want a competitive edge. Do you think this is something that we should be looking at, saying where's the tipping point in terms of that bigger picture, and not just ESG, but the financial impact in a company overall as a big picture? Because sustainability, we know consumer preferences are moving towards that as companies, not just products, ESG, and really targeting that risk factor for big business. Do you think this is something that, like, the pet industry should be aware of?
Yes. And a question for me is at what stage are we at in terms of valorizing sustainability, or right? Let's say sustainability right now has a value of X, or an importance factor of X. Where on the continuum, if you will, is that mark? Is it in the middle? Is it just starting? Is it how much more important will it become over the next how long? Right? I think that answer to that question will play a big role in understanding the tipping point, where we are in terms of sustainability as a measure. You mentioned carbon credits, everything associated with that. And in my view, I think it's something that we are, if you look at the globe, we're all very much aware of it. But our global targets are carbon neutral by 2050. I mean, it's a long way away, right? I mean, from a lifetime point of view, maybe not a company's, but still, it's a long way. So maybe then we are only near the beginning of the whole sustainability journey. And maybe insects, as you mentioned in your presentation, can have an increasingly important role in that.
Is there any other comments from the panel?
So in our company, we view ESG reporting or carbon reporting one of the key elements, actually. And then, because I think one of the key buying factor about customers is that it's sustainable products, and then we had to kind of storytelling with data that we are offering a sustainable products. So reporting of those like sustainability factor is one of the key things. And in our view, for a small company like us, ESG or carbon reporting is not so expensive as you think. Okay, we can hire a third party to do a life cycle assessment and then put device on farm to monitor water consumption, CO2 emission, nitro, NH3 emission very effectively. And then it's cost less than $20,000 to do that. So I think with small investment and it repeat every single year, you have to pay around $5,000. So I think it's not a significant investment. So I would encourage every insect company to do that and spread the news to the world.
That sort of links into one of the other questions we've got. It's would you all think that in the long term, insect protein can beat fish meal and plant-based protein in feed and pet food, and how? I mean, part of it will come from a sustainability angle. But what else do you think is in there that's going to hopefully take, or does it come back to what we talked about before? Let's look at the segmentation. Literally, let's not chase trash fish, as we call them in Cambodia. And let's just stick to where the segmentation is, validating the segment, getting the high quality research. Do you think it should be an and or trying to say, oh, we're going to beat plant-based protein, or just say, no, we actually play a unique role?
We're definitely on the position that that's really our customers' decision to take, and not for us to mandate. I think what we provide with our products are pathways that support both directions, right? And we've shown with our work that there is a pathway for customers to do in aquaculture fully marine ingredient free formulations and grow fantastic sashimi quality fish on that with insect proteins. And we've shown on pet food, on dogs, that you can have a monoprotein insect-based formulation that sustains and maintains dogs in good health over time. Whether that is what some customers might say, yeah, that is where we want to put our proposition, and others will say, we use it as a blend of things, and you see that a lot now in the market with kind of salmon and insect, chicken and insect, lamb and insect formulations, and that's good too, right? In aquaculture as well, we don't have to replace everything dogmatically, but if we put a 5% or 10% into the formulation that replaces, let's say, a marine ingredient, then that's the impact that we're already creating there.
I like that approach. It's almost like the classic have a healthy mixed diet. Like on the way to the gym, have an avocado shake and pick up a Pruthi bar, right?
I just would like to make the last point, because people thought all the time when they say when is going to replace, I would say not to totally replace today, but you can successively apply, implement, and give it a chance.
And we have demonstrated that there are functional benefits that insects can offer. That's quite unique in some sense, at least at the moment. Now, of course, in the future, maybe there's another product that comes along. So yes, it can add a complementary aspect. So yeah.
Perfect. Actually, just on products, I do believe Global Bugs has a box of Pruthi bars at the entrance point. So if you do want to test cricket protein, they're actually really delicious. So you can test your own ick factor, which is another question. We'll come back to that later. And also the AFFIA stand is at AD27. AD27. Unfortunately, my accent is Australian. Where Ento Foods, Pretenga, Global Bugs, and I think NAM and Cricket One have some samples there. So we're not just talking about the powders, we're looking at the lipids and the oils as well. So if you want to start exploring that in a conversation, please come to the AFFIA stand or talk to the panelists after this. So that brings us to, we've got the ick factor or the science question. Which way do we want to go with one of these? The science question is, let's go ick factor. We've talked about science. Okay. How do you overcome actually let's put this one together. How do you overcome the ick factor or the disgust factor? And I wonder does that also tie in, do insects attract every species of pet? So I think that might be, do pets eat different species of insects? What do you think overcomes the ick factor in this sector?
All right. Lady first? Okay, from Global Bug, right chart. When we do the human consumption, we never show the whole cricket to the consumer. It might apply to the pet food, that we don't show the whole insect, so that because the owner of the pet is the decision maker, they don't want to see eyes of the crickets. So that's my secret.
And I think maybe we don't need to overcome the disgusting factor. In some case, we have to embrace it. Actually, one of the best-selling product is whole crickets, and you will be surprised at which customer are buying. The USA, American people are buying a lot of whole crickets, because if that cricket powder make into like a cricket cracker, it's normal. But if they look at like the whole cricket season and eating it like an extreme feeling, and a lot of people have that extreme feeling. So I mean, if we understand like there's a customer group who want to embrace that X factor, why not? Why do we have to avoid that factor?
And it's interesting because those consumers would also link across to the consumers that would have insect protein in pet food. And I find it fascinating because you've pushed into whole crickets in the US market, but you also just launched Rec, selling crickets as a packaged snack back into the Vietnamese market as well. So it's fascinating because I know with AgriHouse, one of the first things we developed was an anamorphic character called Sunny, so that there was a visual identification, and he's dressed with a krama, the Cambodian scarf, and a pair of flip-flops. You know, so everyone's like, oh yeah, we understand he's a cricket. But for the black soldier fly people, this is a whole different game, right? I mean, we're talking about maggots. I mean, you just have to rip the Band-Aid off, right? Can you make maggots sexy? Is that a way to overcome the ick factor, or is it really just, I'm not sure. What do you think?
A few thoughts that I would like to offer on this. One of the really interesting and powerful visuals that I've seen in the space is a juxtaposition of a shrimp and a cricket in I don't know, I think it was Time magazine or some a magazine, and I think it's striking how similar the visual appearance is, right? And the one is a scavenger that lives in brackish, muddy waters, and the other one is a terrestrial invertebrate that is cultivated in clean vertical environments. If you actually turn it into that picture, it becomes a different perception. And I think we spoke about tipping points. I think in terms of perception, there really are often these kind of tipping points that shape collective perception, and that can really fundamentally change collective perception. One of these interesting anecdotes is salmon, right? The fact that today most sushi in the world is salmon-based has nothing to do with Japanese tradition. It has everything to do with Norwegian salmon farming lobby that has, in the 80s, pushed really hard to get into Japanese sushi. And the Japanese said, no, it's a dirty fish. We don't want to eat that in sushi. If you go to a high-class sushi restaurant, you're not served salmon to date, right? But at some point, they found a distributor that was powerful enough to move it into the market, and that kind of gave the visual, the radiating force to make it a global product today, to have salmon sashimi everywhere as a premium product. And so I think there, in this context, what Nam said in terms of the embracing it and the market in the US as a snack, right, with beers, which is so much better than deep fried potato chips, right, from all aspects, taste and nutrition, that those things can, when positioned right and when there's enough momentum behind it, really change the narrative. And today nobody thinks about salmon as that dirty fish anymore, that 25 years ago they would say, no, never raw, only cooked. And so this is something that I think, I don't know whether and when it'll happen with insects, but I want to just kind of share that anecdote as it can happen when the right forces and the right levers come in. And I think the insect industry is building up those foundations across all of these multifaceted works that we're doing to create that change.
Yeah, I mean, it's a research-based foundations that it's not about if, it's about when. Right. So we've got one more quick question. Is chitin in insects good or bad for pets? Probably more at that end of the room. Who'd like to take this one first?
Well, I'm not a vet, but I think it's a debating content, right? Like the AFFIA, for example, they regulate the maximum chitin level in cricket for use in pet food at around 7%. But in some research paper, chitin is you gut enhancement thing. So maybe Liu can add more value to this.
Cam?
You want to go? I understand the phrasing, the question for cats and dogs, but just if we're talking about pets in general, I mean, there's your spiders, your lizards. Yes, chitin, insects is okay for that. They've evolved eating insects, perfect. Cats and dogs. Yes, there is some research to suggest that the high fiber in insect meals associated with chitin specifically, actually, can act as a prebiotic specifically for pets. So a prebiotic is an environment, a structure, a food source, for example, for probiotic or beneficial bacteria to feed on to improve gut health. So that's where the research is currently active, and results are showing positive signs, I would say, yeah.
I think I second that. The poison is in the dosage, right? If you have a pet food product that has a excessive amount of anything, it's not going to be good for the animal. Chitin as an isolate, as well as its derivative chitosan, are, when extracted and isolated, ingredients that fetch quite premium prices to be added back into formulations in pet and aqua. And the kind of prebiotic function of it for gut health is one that is being postulated. With the insect protein meal, and that's kind of one of maybe also the challenges to sell it functionally, is that it comes as a whole bag of propositions: antimicrobial, peptides, proteins, digestibilities, the oil, the chitin, that makes kind of the messaging on what is the value proposition that you're buying when you make it a little bit more difficult, but it nonetheless is, in most of the applications where we've seen it in kind of the 5 to 20% inclusion range, not something where I'm aware of any research that suggests that it has a negative effect.
Yeah, thanks. conscious of time, we've covered a lot of ground today. I mean, it's been incredible to hear not just from the presentations, but where we're, as we said before, like it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. That I think it's not at the tipping point. I think it's at that point now, right? Which is the tipping point. It's just a matter of which sort of pet food company would be the first mover into the market now. You know, like the science is there, the research is there, the emotional response for marketing is there, the corporate response to risk and profitability and sustainability is there. So just very quickly from each of you, what is probably one thing that you would say, just a minute each, to people that are in your audience? What would be the key takeaway? And feel free to start if you've got a burning takeaway now, or we can...
I would also add to that, if I can start first, is that the products are also there. As we've shown today, there are multitude of products already in the markets in worldwide. And there could be an argument made as other markets are ahead, if you will, driving this forward. And why shouldn't that be Asia? Why can't Asia drive this forward? Why can't we be the leaders in this? Because it's not a. I don't think there's a question of whether it's valuable or not. It's for me the question is why aren't we using it more? Whereas looking at other markets who are extensively using it already. Yeah.
Yeah, I would echo that. I think the question is who's going to be the first mover. Fortunately, is a question for historians today to answer and not for fortune tellers, because they are already the first movers who have capitalized on it and who are capitalizing on it in the pet food space and building their market niches. And we as producers are fortunate to be able to already today support those first movers with their products and developing and iterating on the propositions with their customers and iterating on what is the stickiness that makes their kind of brand value move and their business model move. And there are really good success cases among insect-based pet food companies and brands that are supported by the ingredient propositions that we are already providing today. And so luckily, I guess, conclusion, this is already happening today. We're not talking about the potential for the future here. It is something that is having impact on cats and dogs, feed bowls today and every day. And as Cameron said, there is an opportunity to get it to more feed bowls in a myriad of ways. And that's what we are here to support and to partner with pet food manufacturers and pet food brands on. And that's what we're really excited about. So, yeah, thank you.
For me, I would say that it takes courage to be the first mover, and I could say that there are some big brands in this hall that already done the recipe in secret. So that I think the movie, I love at the end of the movie to be continued. They will take the first move soon.
I love that. So it's not even at first followers now, right? It's who in the industry is going to start playing catch up. Wow, that's fascinating.
Who's moving who's losing the train? Who's not getting onto the train?
Yeah, which is a much bigger reason for people to get on the train. Gene, your thoughts?
Okay, my key takeaway is that insect is actually not new for pet food producer at all. I think every factory has been trying to include it to their formula, but just waiting for the price point that it can be, they can make the competitive products. But the other one, I think that we need to stop thinking that insect will provide only the sustainable ability to pet food. But I believe that normally when we see insects, most of us will just consider it as one, but actually we have so many different species of insect, and I believe that each of them has so different value between them. So yeah, in this coming years, it's very important to to find the true value of each species, yeah, to add to our pet products.
I mean, that's some fantastic blue sky thinking though, right? I mean, as you said, in 20 years, are we going to be looking back and saying, do you remember when we could input select insects into select pet foods to optimize the nutritional value of it?
Right, right.
I think that's something to look forward to, definitely. Nam.
Well, I think the insect pet food industry is at a very exciting point. Like regulation is almost there. Market is building up. Now you have a lot of interest from big corporations who can consume big quantity of ingredients. Science building up. So I think that the foundation for insect pet foods is, I think, quite solid at the moment. I think it's an exciting time for a company like us to be in the market, and all we can do now is I think build a scalable business model, like a scalable production base. So when the market is really, really there, we can scale up production to meet the demand in the market.
Which brings us back to all of your businesses are ready to scale. So it's a case of basically the pet industry saying, let's have a conversation. Okay, well, if you need to have a conversation, please wait for a moment. We just need to take the obligatory photo. But I do want to thank Cameron, Leo. I know I was trying to work out whether I need to name drop your business as well. Cameron from Veolia, Leo from Pretenga, Wei from Global Bugs, Jean from Smart Vet, and Nam from Cricket One. Many thanks for being with us today in such an interesting exploration of the future of insect protein nutrition in the pet food industry. Please have a conversation with them. The future's only going to get brighter and better and bigger. Okay, thanks very much, everyone.
Thank you, and thank you, Ian,
Thank you,
for
Ian.
your time. Yeah, very good.
Yeah, photo time for.
All right. Okay, the microphone is on right now, so I'd like to take this opportunity to have a good photo with all the speakers. And I'd like to take a bow to you, Mr. Ian Jones, for modulating this interesting talk. May I request all speakers kindly step forward, please. And after the team just remove the table. It's great, yeah, to have all of you. It's good to have the conversation together and well consider the bright future for the insect that could be good for nutrition for pet industry. A special thanks to the Asian Fruit and Feed Insect Association, or AFFIA, to bring this conversation to our stage of the Pet Fest Southeast Asia 2023. Alright, so we have a fan who loves the insect, right? The audience, shall we take a good photo together? I would love to invite all the audience. Yeah, please, kindly join with us for a good photo. Yeah, come on. Hi, guys. We have the new generation that love your conversation, would like to join in a good photo. Come on, everybody. It's great to have all of you join with us in this good photo opportunity together. Thank you so much for your time, your kind participation that make this impact and active session among us who love the insect, and the insect can be one of the bright future for the pet industry. Thanks once again for the Asian Fruit and Feed Insect Association. If you're interested to collaborate for the future opportunity with the experts, kindly keep contact with the Asian Fruit and Feed Insect Association. Thank you for participating in our session. Once again, we would love to request your kind cooperation. We also have the conference survey. We will show it shortly. Kindly complete the conference survey. Your feedbacks and suggestions will help us to better understanding your experience and improve our future conference program. Coming up next in the afternoon session, will start at 1 p.m. sharp. At 1 p.m., session by Chemical Industry. The topics of oxidation control in pet food, journey to natural. At 2 p.m., session by Colbrand. The topics of long-chain omega-3 DHA benefits for cats and dogs in all life states. And plus, for today at 3 p.m. onward, we also have the charity programs. We'd like to invite all exhibitors and everyone can join with us here at Pet Square. The pet food donation event, which is called Nourishing with Love from Fair to Charity. Today is the last day of the exhibition as a give back to the society and support the local pet federation. These activities are designed to enhance your experience while you enjoy visiting for a Pet Fest Southeast Asia with us. If you want to be a part, and they are all exhibitors, if you have any pet products, for example pet food you like to share or donate to the society, so please kindly contact our staff. We will let you to know how to be a part to give back to the society. Hope you enjoy the show and don't miss out to stay around here at the Pet Square. The fruitful station are riding up and waiting for you. Hope you enjoy Pet Fest Southeast Asia 2020. Thank you.